Okay. While we finish up getting our guests signed in.
Everybody have a seat. Yeah, one for, okay,
That one right there.
right there. Okay, good.
Okay, so welcome everyone to the Tuesday, May 13th Board of Commissioners meeting for the Albany Housing Authority. Just for the record, Commissioners present, Bob Semple, Valerie Mitchell, Trainum, and myself, Kimbrough, along with the Housing Authority's Executive Director, Chiquita Diarbo, as well as Brian Primer, our counsel, and our IT guy, Eric Ross. So, jumping right into the meeting, the first thing up is our community forum, where we typically have community speakers. At this point in time, we have a correspondence from Ms. Dara Sim. In lieu of being here present at the meeting herself, she wrote a letter, which will become a part of the record. The letter's dated May 8th to the Housing Authority board members. It will be a part of the meeting record. And at that point, since we have no speakers signed up for the community forum, we'll move on to the action item. Sorry about that. First action item is the April 8th meeting minutes, April 2025. Did everyone have a chance to review them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, so I'll entertain the motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Can I get a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Good.
okay, on to the proposed resolution. We'll start with 5/2509, resolution of authorizing the Albany Housing Authority to accept certain affordable housing program funds and make a loan of such funds to Steamboat 20 LLC for the benefit of the Steamboat Square Revitalization Phase 1 project. Ms. Dialbo or Mr. Kramer?
Yes, I think I'm
I'll
going to take
refer
this
to Primer.
one. So the Housing Authority was awarded a grant to help with our permanent conversion of this development. This grant money will go towards paying down construction debt, which will allow AHA and the rest of the development team to recoup their deferred development fees. The grant funds are going to flow to the Albany Housing Authority and then be loaned to the project. And in exchange for that, Albany Housing Authority will be taking a note and mortgage so that it's secured that money gets paid back. So we need board approval in order to accept the award and then loan the money to the project. All that's spelled out in resolution 052509.
Okay. So that the amount is the 1.3 million, basically?
1.32, right.
2 million?
Yes.
And are we going the whole entire amount?
We are.
Yes.
So it's just like a pass-through?
Correct.
Okay, so any
Questions?
questions?
We done?
Okay, all right, with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Can I get a second? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next motion, 5/25-10, resolution authorizing the Albany Housing Authority to acquire by assignment of investor member and special member interest in Swan Street. Resolution authorizing Albany Housing Authority to acquire by assignment of investor member and special member interest in Swan Street Mixed Use LLC.
So I'll take this one and the next one, which is similar, and it's for Swan Street Homes LLC, which are related entities. So
This is the same
Same.
property, but,
Yes, it's divided in, basically the same property, divided into two different ownership interests.
got it.
So what we have here is, you'll remember that very often when we do these redevelopments, there's an investor in the project, and that's how we get some of the tax credits, et cetera. So as these mature, typically the investor wants to get out of the deal, if you will, because they've exhausted whatever they see they're going to benefit from the project. So in this case, what we're asking for is a resolution which authorizes the purchase of their interest in each project for $5,000, which is, a minimal amount of money. And we're going to accept their ownership interest, pay the $5,000 for each project. Therefore, they will be out. And we'll still be left with some of our related entities owning the property, but it basically will be all Albany Housing Authority entities.
Only.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, no further questions. Would entertain a motion on the resolution.
Motion made.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
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 Everybody.
Okay, next, resolution, 5/25/11, resolution authorizing the Albany Housing Authority to acquire by assignment of investor member and special member interest in Swan Street Homes LLC.
Same explanation.
Right. So I'll make that motion.
Okay, can I get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Resolution passes. Okay, on to resolution 5/25/12, resolution approving a contract with Skill Cloud Consulting Group for payroll administration.
Okay, thank you. As you recall, earlier this year, actually, no, I'll go back to the summer of 2024, we contracted on an emergency basis to have Skill Cloud take over our payroll process, which until, such time that allows us to do the proper procurement, which we did. We put it out to bid. They were the most responsive bidder. Explanations and information in detail is provided in your packet. They won the bid, and we had 3 evaluators, and out of the outcome of those 3 evaluators, Skill Cloud was the chosen company. We currently work with them. We're very satisfied with what they have to offer. The other 2 companies did not come close to offering such a package and what they can do in terms of compliance as it relates to payroll. So Skill Cloud has been the chosen one, and hopefully you will pass it today, as it is well needed.
And is the content of the package the reason for the discrepancies in the monies?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And it was that.
So I will say to you, the other 2 did not provide compliance components, as it relates to state and federal laws in regards to payroll. They did not offer a lot of what Skill Cloud currently offers in terms of, one-on-one guidance, support. They have been very responsive. They know our systems. And the other 2 companies that were not compatible, nor did they work with ADP, which is our payroll platform.
Is there anybody else? So this is a closed bid at this point. The bid is closed.
Correct.
Did we reopen it if we wanted to?
No.
No, it's done.
We got 3 responders. We did it per, federal
Oh, of course.
and state regulations, and those were the responders that we got, the 3, and they're listed in your packet.
I would say that Skill Cloud is, if you were going to get into whether all the bidders were quote unquote responsible bidders, which we don't have to do in this type of bidding process, I would suggest that the other 2 were likely not responsible bidders, in that they really could not meet our expectations based upon the submission that they made. That's why their number is extremely low, and which is those numbers are unreasonably low, quite honestly. So that's why we're leaving with Skill Cloud.
Okay. The only reason I was mentioning is because there's such a gap between, especially the first one and the, I can see, the third one being thrown out, but then there's a smaller gap, which is still a big gap when you look at the whole thing, between the second one and Skill Cloud, of which, I was wondering if there was somebody that may have been in the middle.
Well, I could tell you that I personally sat in on a demo with Paycom, with the second company, years and years ago when I was overseeing HR. And their package has not changed much in terms of they weren't compatible then, and they're not today.
Okay.
So is this a direction that we're going now, is having a company handle payroll? Is that what?
Yes.
And so we'll look for, in the future, a renewal possible of this process again?
Once the contract is up, correct.
Was it 3 years?
Typically, it starts at, is it 1 year for renewals? I believe it says in the
Yeah, so
resolution.
one-year contract with up
Oh, yeah.
to
Yeah.
4 one-year options.
So each year has to be voted on?
No,
Okay.
It'll be-
this is the vote, which allows us to renew if we opt to,
For up to 5 years?
up to 5 years, correct.
Okay, got it.
Okay, thank you.
About 115.
Okay, I would entertain a motion on the resolution.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, second? All in favor, say aye.
And
Aye. The resolution passes. Okay, next, resolution 5/25/14, resolution approving the extension and modification of a contract with Nan McKay & Associates for management services for housing choice voucher programs. I checked the wrong,
Yeah,
okay. Put the check in.
Yes.
You want to get to that Nan McKay resolution.
Put the check in the wrong. Okay, this is 5/25/13, resolution contract with HMA contract for repaving at Nut Grove Gardens Apartments.
All I can tell you is that it's long overdue. This is a company in which we've contracted previously with other, with all of our other locations that they're currently repaving. And, yeah, that's all I can say. It needs to be repaved. Pardon?
Quality has been good?
Quality has been very satisfactory.
And I do want to point out, you'll remember a couple of meetings ago, we talked about including in resolutions moving forward, the ability to have change orders up to 10% just executed by the executive director as opposed to coming back here to modify it. So number 2 of the resolution talks about how the executive director will be authorized to execute any change orders not to exceed the $19,500.
Got it.
Right. And we're looking to, you already mentioned that, right? Pave other sites, so it's not just.
This resolution is specific to Nut Grove. I mentioned them because they have paved other sites.
Right.
And it is in the annual budget to cover this paving job.
Got it.
It was presented in the 2024 for the 2025 budget.
Further discussion?
None?
Not, motion, entertain a motion on the resolution.
Motion made.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now, we're at 5/14. A resolution approving the extension and modification of a contract with Nan McKay & Associates, Inc. for case management services for the housing choice voucher programs and authorizing the executive director to execute an agreement and related documents regarding same.
Okay. This is an existing contract that we currently are under. We're just looking to extend it at this time as we continue to do our reevaluation and assessment of the department and ensuring that we are providing the utmost quality service to our participants, as well as ensuring that the current employees that are working in that department are properly trained in the appropriate manner with updated rules and regulations, particularly given the current administration. There's a lot of changes that they're currently implementing, and we're trying to as well implement and understand. This allows us, with working with this leading agency who provides the majority of the training with all of the housing authorities throughout the country, to oversee some of these caseloads while we're working on ensuring that everyone is on the same page, understanding the rules and regulations, and properly instituting them as they apply them to particular cases. So this allows us that breathing room, in addition to also working on converting into, the new software, which is a heavy load that we are asking our caseworkers and managers to work on. This will give them that breathing room to allow for that case management extension.
Okay. Now, Chiquita, you mentioned the current administration, and actually we talked about it a little bit in some of our previous meetings. Has there been any updates as far as what they're actually doing at the top that's really affecting decisions that we're making now? I
can tell you that we've lost a few of our HUD representatives due to the deferred resignation. I believe that's what they're calling it. So a lot of things have been moving, around, whereas, we've had one-on-one service. Not that we're not getting, representatives that are not working with us. They are, but they're, I believe that they're doing more with less as well. In addition to that, a lot of the rules and regulations and programs are rolling out, whereas what we were taught or understood things were going to be are now kind of changing. Some of the turnaround responses have been a little delayed, understandably, if they're down staff. But in addition to the effect that it has on our program, we're not necessarily seeing, we're seeing impacts as it relates to some of, for an example, our inspections, some of the evaluations pending and waiting on the responses and seeing, where we stand, those types of things. But unfortunately, there's a lot of proposals on the table that have yet to pass, but the understanding and with very little guidance. So unfortunately, I can't give you
good or bad proposals.
Correct. I can't give you the details because they're just proposals. So we're not seeing necessarily if it's going to impact us in a positive way or a negative way. But like I said, we are seeing some of, the staff leaving for whatever reason they choose to, but a lot of them have explained to us it's under the deferred.
That buyout thing? Yes. So, they're, in all honesty, they're trying to figure it out too. Yeah.
So because they don't know, it's a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
Relates to that. So we're just taking on we're just proceeding slowly, cautiously, and doing what we can to ensure that we can stabilize what we have.
Right. Yeah, and I can recall a couple of meetings ago, we were having discussions about how this federal thing was going to impact our operations and whatnot. So I guess we're starting to see. We are. They've changed the way that they inspect, which is a little, housing authorities are in an uproar over that. It's really how the wind blows, things that over the years, 30, 40 years that we would be inspected on, they don't even look at. Now it's things that have been there 50, 40 years, and now it's like, oh, that's a problem, And I'm talking like something like across the street, an external wall where there's a mural. Well, that can't be there. Wow. Those types of things, things that normally, that's beautification. That's not, graffiti. Understanding the difference, but because that inspector might see that as graffiti, they'll write it up, for an example. And those are points that you have to fight to get back. So just different things. You just see unknown. You just don't know what they're going to look at or score you by.
So just trying to get a grasp on those types of things and, just understanding if there's, shifting in the types and how we, administer our programs and things like that. So, for an example, people don't understand it, but it is, we were advised we can't issue vouchers, for an example. HUD tells you don't issue them, you don't issue them. People may not like it, but that's life. Unfortunately, we have to preserve the program and hopefully preserve the families that are currently on the program. So.
Excuse me, can I leave? I have to leave.
Of course.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Would I be able to come back? Because I
Yeah.
gotta go get my granddaughter.
I don't know how much
It's
longer,
only right down the street.
but we'll be here if you're
All right.
back. Okay, moving on to the next resolution.
We got to vote?
Yeah, we have to.
I'm
Oh, I'm so long-winded, I thought it was.
Beginning of the conversation.
I'm just carrying on. Okay.
So I would entertain,
Thank you for that, Chairman Bob Simple.
I'll give you that.
okay, second. All those in favor, say aye.
And
Aye. All right, the resolution passes. Next resolution, 5/25/15, resolution approving a contract with Sherwin-Williams Company for flooring installation services throughout the property.
And I know it's all properties, correct?
Yes, this one is all, yes.
Yeah, so, this is a non-competitive proposal, which basically means that, there was an outreach for potential, companies to do the flooring installation services, and there really was no interest in it. So, however, Sherwin-Williams did submit a non-competitive proposal, which meets all the reasonable requirements that you would need to for a non-competitive proposal. So long story made short, for all flooring activities throughout all of our properties, it would be the Sherwin-Williams Company installation. In your packet is the price structure for those, or in the packet that was emailed out to you. But it's basically a per foot or per square foot sort of pricing. So, this room would be different than the next room. But all within reason, and I think a little bit cheaper than what we were paying right now.
Yes, it came down.
Now, that includes the apartments and office space.
Wherever, yeah.
Wherever,
Somebody lives-
yeah, but it's mainly apartment. Yeah, but it's wherever.
Okay.
It covers all parts of the property.
Can you put me on a list to? That's good.
No,
Yeah.
they've been doing flooring for a long time.
Sherwin-Williams.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
It is that Sherwin-Williams Company?
yeah. They've been in the flooring business for quite some time now. Yeah.
So, entertain a motion on this?
I want to be the one that entertains that,
Okay. I'll second.
I'll throw it if I can get
All
it.
those in favor, say
yes, sir.
aye. I don't need, the resolution passes.
Very good. Good stuff.
So, that was the action portion, well, the resolutions and the action portion. So moving on, advisement,
Yeah. Thank you. Just wanted to, I'm sure you have seen, two of our addresses, noted in the news, most recently. One was the shooting in North Albany. Details basically per the news. There was a address that I guess was a target of a shootout of, targeted. I will say that address has been known to us, and we've been addressing that address accordingly. So I'll leave it at that for the, obviously for the privacy of those associated with it. And then more recently was the incident, that occurred on Monday, which was, I believe, yesterday. 2 in 1 day. Gentleman was arrested, was released, came back, and then, tried to basically, not tried, but robbed one of our employees. That was, you know, he was apprehended and is currently in, you know, in jail. Again, you know, obviously it's very traumatic to our employee. That's, the safety is my concern, employees as well as residents. The police responded quickly and apprehended him. Why he was released initially, I guess he met bail. So unfortunately, he was allowed, you know, he was back out on the street and came back. He does have a relative within that building, which is probably why, majority of the reason probably why, he was allowed in the building, which we will address. But at this point, just wanted to let you know, we remain, you know, diligent and working very closely with APD, to ensure that that person does not come back in that property, and that we will address the person who is associated with that individual. But the employee is safe, and is doing okay, but was advised to stay home just to kind of, you know, do what they needed to do for themselves.
That's always traumatic.
Yeah,
No matter what.
it's ridiculous. But what can you do?
We have stuff, we have cameras and those kind
We have it all.
of, okay.
We have what we need. Well, I will say the police has what they need. We are not police officers. I need to make that very clear, because unfortunately, some people seem to think we are.
Okay, all right, so moving on to the internal reporting section.
Absolutely. I don't necessarily have anything, to highlight other than what are some of the things that we've been doing in the community. The reports are in your binder. You know, we're pretty stable, you know, financially sound. We continue to watch our spending, and, you know, because of the uncertainty, we have to be extra cautious, because you just don't know. And we want to make sure that we are taking every measure to ensure that we can continue to administer and maintain our properties that currently exist. And making sure that we have the funds to do what we need to do. We continue to be diligent with rent collections, because that is part of our bottom line. That also contributes to us, allowing us to do the necessary repairs in said properties as well. So you'll see in the budgets where they stand in our component units, the non-public housing units, which I remind you that the majority of our properties are not public housing. The only ones that we have currently are Robert Whalen. We have, even though they're under construction, until we do the conversion itself to the 3 towers and the rest of Steamboat, and Townsend and Westview. There are some tax credit properties as well as RAD properties, more so tax credit properties that have some public housing properties in them, but those are the true public housing properties that I like to continue to remind you of. That being said, you'll see all their budgets. You'll see the Section 8 budget authority that we are currently working with, and ensuring that we, again, like I said, make sure that we can continue to administer the program with a sound financial backing and support. Let's see. And I think the only other thing that I want to point out are the great things that we are doing with our resource center. I know that you sit on the committee. Are you prepared to go over it? I'm happy to.
Well, you can do that. I just
Okay.
wanted to, as always, commend, you and your staff at 200. I mean, I I drove by and actually helped out a little bit. They just handed out food from the food bank. You know, they're doing such a great job, you know, working. The whole crew over there, and I don't want to list names because I don't want to miss people. But,
Yeah.
I know they volunteer. Snug, they work with Snug, National Grid, First New York. They're working with a lot of different community folks, which is great. But more importantly, is the amount of people that they're servicing. And that's why I just wanted to commend you and your staff, because I feel like they're doing a great job over there. Not that
Thank
all
you.
the other departments are not doing a good job, because I'm on video, but I just want to make sure that those guys are out there rolling up their sleeves and doing some good job, some good work.
Thank you. I do want to, you know, reiterate that because that was the intent of the Resource Center when I opened it, and that was my vision, and its purpose. And they are really going over and above what it was intended to do, and I'm grateful for that. I do like and want to highlight, you know, they've over for this month, it's been over 300 families. They're up to about 6,600 pounds of food that has been distributed. The breakdown of each site is in the report. You know, again, they continue to work towards connecting individuals who come through the door or access us through whatever means necessary, phones, home visits, whatever it might be. They continue to connect them to resources, which is a great thing. You know, we have our resource engagement series downstairs every Friday. Various agencies, community agencies come and they table and, you know, we open to the public for access. National Grid, they come to the Resource Center to have one-on-one meetings with the individuals who might have questions about their bill or concerns about paying their bill, whatever it might be. National Grid there, the next time that they will be there will be May 21st, 10 to 12. There are also, we have partnered with the First New York Federal Credit Union, they do quarterly visits with financial literacy and credit repair. So far, we have a few of our residents who have participated in this initiative. We have, the staff has reached out to approximately 89 households who are at risk of falling behind in their rents, trying to be more proactive and trying to make sure and prevent them from getting to court, and hopefully trying to, you know, make sure that there's some stability in their homes to prevent them from having to go to court. So we want to get ahead of it instead of behind it. So that's 89 households they conducted outreach for in that new initiative that we're working on. In addition to that, we currently have under our Family Self-Sufficiency Program, the capacity has a minimum of 150 participants. We have 183. And of those 183, we have about 109 that are participating in an escrow account, which means they have, when they started into the program, their income was very low or zero, and they have now gained, gainful employment, which provides the ability to start an escrow. So that is great. One of our success stories I want to share, and then I will close. One of our FSS participants, they entered the program. They were facing unemployment, significant debt, and was facing personal struggles. Became catering a venture as a creative outlet, which quickly grew into a thriving business. And working with the Resource Center and other outreach, she expanded her business through delivery platforms and completed a business course through community loan funds. And recently, she accepted a long-awaited teaching position, improved her credit, secured reliable transportation, and found someone to talk to about her personal struggles. and she has stated that she now feels empowered by the progress she's made and the options before her, crediting both her determination and the support to our family self-sufficiency program. There are many stories like that, that sometimes we issue a newsletter quarterly, and some of those stories are included in that. That concludes my report, and if you have any questions.
No, I want to add, for the program committee, we kind of had these impromptu meetings, but we decided this year what we're going to do is had a national night out. We wait and do the planning, and as a part of that, I did outreach to the neighborhood folks and APD. They're doing a centralized night out this year.
Okay.
We're doing a different site.
Yes.
So we have to get together and decide what our participation is going to look like. Because we used to have many sites, and now we're working on this. Maybe we did the Washington Park years ago. They maybe, it sounds like what they're thinking of. And so
keep me posted, and we'll see what we can do and what our budget looks like too. That's another thing that we have to keep an eye on. And I forgot one very important thing. Steamboat Square received the Historic Preservation Award. Unfortunately, because of personal reasons, I wasn't able to attend, but this is the award. One of our staff went to receive it. So it's getting great notoriety. Very, it's a wonderful project, as you know, Steamboat 20, as well as we're moving on to phase 2, so we're excited about that as well. So that's
good to see.
moving right along.
Does that mean that building's a historic building? Or?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
I remember when it went up. I'm that old. I lived around the corner.
You want to share that? That's up to you. But I don't.
have a question before we.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't agree on record with the Washington Park.
I don't either, because it's about neighborhoods, and it's about meeting people where they're at.
Yeah.
And celebrations look different across the city, and to have one in the middle of the city is it's counterintuitive when you think about National Night Out.
Right.
If I can add, and I don't want, I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but I think part of my understanding of the approach is because of the limited number of officers, because I think that has been our challenge in some locations last year. If you remember, we didn't have any. They might have walked through, but we didn't have a full presence as before in the past. We've had presence. They fully participated. They even did pop-ups, which I know that they're doing the pop-ups, but we participated in that and tried to ensure that they were at our sites as well. So I'm only guessing that that might be the reasoning behind it. I don't know that to be true, but.
I'm not discussing here, but, National Night Out Week should be a good thing. Monday, Arbor Hill, Tuesday, South End, and we just rotate.
Make that suggestion.
Right. So, just putting that in.
Okay.
You want to be starting something.
Huh?
I'm related to AHA Business. Can we move on?
I'm just
right. I did have a question when we were talking about the rentals and things like that.
Yes.
Okay. In the middle of COVID, we were, I don't know how many millions of dollars behind in rental payments. Do you have an update on that?
We're still millions behind.
We're still millions, but it was stuff like 10 or 11.
Well, we are probably, I would say, we're still probably at about 1.7, the last meeting I had behind. If you, let me see, where can I show you to page 43?
In our package here?
Yes, 2.8 million, and we are 2.2 million right now. To the far left corner column, where it says total outstanding accounts receivable.
Just below the yellow line.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's where we are. So it's still the same.
But importantly, not.
Things are going up since.
Right, it's kind of flattening out, but it's, $2.2 million. You can do a lot with that as properties if you had your rent.
You were saying, Brian? Sorry.
It's generally flat, like we're not falling further behind. And
Yeah.
we did, Chiquita, you might remember the number, but the ERAP program did come through
We
with
did.
a fair amount of money.
It's right there at the bottom of page 43, 1.6 million.
So that ate into a lot of it. It helped a lot of our tenants remain or get current. So that was great for the
That
housing
was
authority
very
and great
helpful.
for the tenants themselves.
Yep.
Are you still expecting more from the ERAP program? Is that done?
No,
There's
the
no more.
last report, there's no more funding. There are some still pending, I believe, it's not even a handful. Last I was told, and that was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and it also,
Not a handful,
if you try to
but-
contact the
yeah.
ERAP program now,
You can't. Yeah.
The system is constantly down. So my guess is they have likely approved all the applications they're going to approve.
Yeah, the last payment we got was March of 2025. Wasn't a big payment, but it was about $4,600. So a little bit trickling, but if you see November, December, January, February, we didn't get anything. Yeah.
But these are all zeros.
Yep. So I would agree with Brian, probably not gonna get more.
So we'll keep Brian on the payroll. Okay.
I also wanted to make a comment. I know with the current, election going on, obviously we're gonna have a new mayor.
Okay.
And, I was just, I always think about education, because I think a lot of people don't know about what Albany Housing.
Yeah, I hope that the new mayor, coming in will understand that we are not a city agency. I don't work for the mayor. They are not my boss.
Yeah,
You are. And yeah, but some people just, it doesn't grasp.
I just wanted to mention that, because I hear that a lot, and,
Sure.
they don't realize that
I think it's,
Albany Housing is not a city entity.
correct. We are not a city entity. We're not a city department. I'm not on their payroll. None of us are on their payroll. I think that a lot of the confusion lies on, I think part of it is how I was presented as the executive director, because, she was supportive of the appointment. I think that might have confused people. But no, I don't work for the city. The Housing Authority is its own municipality. It stands alone. And yeah, I'm looking at my
The
boss.
biggest thing is regulated by the federal government.
That's 100% on, as it relates to public housing properties. The other entities that we own, such as Steamboat 20, the IDR Bros, the Creighton Stories, those are not federal properties because they are not full 100% public housing. For you, if you think about some of the properties, there's some funding depending on the financing that we received when we developed that property. There might have some ties to federal funding, which then we are obligated to follow those regulations to a certain extent. Am I explaining it correctly? But then there are some properties that have absolutely no federal funding.
Yeah.
Just like any other grant.
Right,
Subjected to the grants.
exactly.
I mean, quite honestly, the role of the city and the mayor's office in particular is really just to appoint you guys, the mayor,
That's
you
it.
guys, and beyond that, then we're a completely independent entity.
Yep.
That's all I have. I'll make a motion to.
Thank you,
Are we done?
Linda.
Yes.
I'm all set.
We're done once you make that motion.
Option, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. I want to thank those who came to observe. Thank you, guys. Good.